Hey guys, today's video is going to be on God's family, the Jews and the Gentiles. So stick with me to hear what I have to say. All right, so very passionate about Israel, and I'm trying to learn more and more about them through the Bible. And I've come across this awesome theme of how salvation was first for the Jews and then the Gentiles. And then how the Gentiles, which would be us, a Gentile is anyone who's not a Jew, is going to actually provoke Jews to jealousy. Once the fullness of us comes in, then all of Israel will be saved. What? So that's what I want to talk to you about. So, Jews. When I say Jews, I mean anyone who's ethnically a Jew, okay? Their bloodline is Jew. They're from Israel. Jesus was a Jew. How amazing is that? And then a Gentile, like I said, is anyone that's not a Jew. So in Romans chapter 1, verse 16, it's very clear that it says that salvation first was for the Jews, but then obviously it's for everyone. So it says in verse 16 of chapter 1, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is this power of God to salvation to everyone who believes, first for the Jew and also for the Greek." Okay, so I think that's awesome. And it would make sense that salvation starts with the Jewish people because Jesus was a Jew. Salvation had to be birthed somewhere. And eventually, obviously, the gospel is for everyone. If you jump to Romans chapter 10, you're going to see Paul's heart for the Jewish people. So Paul is a Jew, right? He actually does a lot of ministry to the Gentiles, but he's explaining his heart for the Jewish people because that is his nationality, like that's his people. And he is saying, like, I want them to be saved. He talks on how they feel that righteousness is by keeping like the Mosaic law, which is not true, because when Jesus comes on the scene, Jesus fulfills that. But a lot of people in Israel, like back in the day too, they believe that closeness with God is by following rules. And so we want to be praying for Israel, for all those who have the faith of Judaism. That would be they believe in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. They believe in following the Mosaic law. They follow all the customs. Like maybe you'll see people, you know how like they'll have like white on and like little tassels, like they'll have like a white shirt with like little white, we call them tassels, but like little threads. Like that's actually from the Mosaic law. And so they wear these things. Like there's all these things they do because they think the more they do and keeping all the laws brings them close to God. But of course, we know that that's not true. And so he talks about that. Paul talks about that in chapter 10. It talks on how the Israelites, and in chapter 11 as well, talk about how God has put blindness in the Israelites and the Jewish people. I really see blindness because they just keep on disobeying, and God was like, I'm trying to tell you about me. I'm trying to tell you about the way. You're just not hearing me. So I feel like the Lord just kind of let them do their thing for a while because they're just not listening, right? But then we pick up in the middle of 11, Romans 11, and Paul is saying, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? So stumbling, meaning like they're not following the Lord, you know, their eyes are blinded. And so Paul's like, are they going to stumble so much that they fall? Meaning like they're not going to have a chance for salvation? And Paul says, certainly not. Certainly not. And he goes on and he says, but through their fall, like through their stumbling, to provoke them to jealousy, salvation has come to the Gentiles. So how I read that and other scriptures is that the Gentiles, anyone that's not a Jew, we are coming to Jesus. We're learning like what true salvation is about. We're learning that things are not rule bound and salvation is a free gift. And it's amazing. It's amazing. And that lifestyle that we have and that salvation that we have is actually going to provoke them to like a godly jealousy. And they're going to want what we've got. But you guys, we only have salvation because of them. It's just crazy. So it birthed with them. A lot of them rejected it. It comes onto us. We have it. It provokes them to actually want it. And that theme continues in chapter 11, verses like 25 through 26. It says, "For I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of the mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come. And so all Israel will be saved." All of Israel will be saved. That is scripture. And so we want to pray. We want to pray for their salvation. We want to pray. Like, even though scripture says they will be saved, we still want to pray and declare that for them. I see all of Israel being saved when Jesus is back ruling and reigning. If you keep on reading, it says, "The deliverer will come out of Zion, and he will turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins." This reminds me of an analogy. So think about a family, like a mom and dad, and they have, let's say, a son. And this mom and dad are like the best mom and dad ever. And their son is just not a very good listener. He did not listen. And so the mom and dad keep on loving the son, but the son's just like, whatever, mom, whatever, dad. Well, the mom and dad decide to adopt a child. And so they adopt another, let's say, another son. And this son, just this adopted son, just like, "I love you, mom and dad. You're the best. Oh my goodness." And so there's this beautiful relationship happening between like the mom and dad and the adopted son. And now the original son, he's like, "I want that. I want that." Now that adopted son, he wouldn't be there. He wouldn't be there unless the parents like invited him in and whatnot. But I think it's so cool because that original son, he sees the adopted son and he's like, I want that. And it actually provokes the adopted son to then build a relationship with his mom and dad. That's kind of how I look at it. So that's a little nugget on what I've been learning and studying. I probably don't have all the facts straight, but that's okay. At least I'm giving you some nuggets to go chew on and sit on. Oh, I want to end with this. It's so good, so good. So Paul keeps on talking, and the times that we don't understand why God does something or why God allows something, or even the part of like God having blindness in part on Israel for a while, like we might be like, why did he do that? Here's a really good verse to kind of back up, like we may not know why, and that's okay, but God knows what he's doing. So Romans 11:33 and 34. "Oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments, and his ways past finding out." Oh my gosh, how unsearchable are his judgments. Like we will not understand his judgments. We will not understand why he always does what he does. It goes on, "For who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has become his counselor?" No one. And so even if we don't always get it, like we don't always get God's judgments in this case, like, well, why did you blind them partially for a while? Well, we might not get it, but we just got to trust God's leadership. I love that. Okay, Bye.